It's Women's Day. Okay.
I thought it was always Women's Day.
Oh, you're great. I thought we'd talk about your mother and the women that raised you
Yeah.
and how it affected your musical life and all that.
Oh, wow. The first image that comes to mind is my Big Mama King, my mother's mother, sitting on the front porch with me in her lap playing that old dobro across the front of me like this, you know. And turn your radio on, get in touch with Jesus. Turn your radio on, get in touch with God. I mean, she would be playing and singing. I was so small, so she had the dobro in front of me, and she's a big woman, all right. They are big. My mama said, we come from big people. You know, they weren't big when when they were young. They just got that way. Big bones. They had big bones. But anyway, Big Mama, and I'd be sitting on her lap, and she put the guitar in front of me, and I could barely reach over the top of it, and I could barely get up to I couldn't get to the headstock. That's how small I was. But I remember it vivid. Aunt Christine in her wheelchair over here, listening to Big Mama sing and play and swing back and forth with me in her lap. I remember that well. And always surrounded by music. She had an old pump organ in the house and an upright piano. Big Mama did. And she lived over on Roseman off Jackson. It's a mess over there now. I went back the last time I was in Memphis to see the house, and it's got a big fence around it, and I don't know what all's going. The place is run down. The whole neighborhood's run down. Looked like it'd been run over after it got run down. But they need to take a dozer in there and just level her out and start all over. But yeah, and all of my aunts were working folks, you know, working ladies. Aunt Dude was a madam. Big Mama was she sold whiskey out off the back porch, and she had a cooler in the back on the back porch, a big refrigerator. She kept it full of Urgel's 92, I think that's what it was called, beers and whiskey, you know, Old Crow and stuff like that. And you know, my grandpa drank Old Crow. I can smell that. I can remember him well. But yeah, and Aunt Dude had three whorehouses. One in Black Oak, Arkansas, and one in Lepanto, and the other one in off President's Island in South Memphis. And she was always fine. She always had a box around her. They clicked, you know, the head clicked. She wore one of those. There's a photo of her around here somewhere.
They're very popular.
With her book and her John and everything. Yeah.
Were you aware of that as a child, what they were doing?
No, hell no. They worked. You know, they were.
Well, we're talking about
just different.
During the Depression and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, so everybody was straight out of the Depression, and like my grandfather worked on the river, as did my dad for a while until he figured out that easy life of preaching, you know, taking poor ignorant folks' money, dig down in there deep.
So do you recall the first time you were sort of struck by music, and this is what?
I've always been struck by music. No, because always been, because it's been a part of the fabric of my makeup of my life. Because there's always been singing and playing in every house I was ever in, and I've always sang since I can recall. And I've got a real good memory that goes back when I was a little fella.
Do you remember the first song that you were singing when you were little?
Yeah, Bo Weevil song, just looking for a home, gotta find a home. Yeah, I was a little bitty fella walking down the streets in Millington, Tennessee, singing Bo Weevil song. Granny Whitlock lived in a shotgun house. Uncle Tommy was there, and Aunt Ruby lived there. She went out and got married, and Uncle Tommy went off to the Air Force. When he came back from the Air Force, he had a 1955 Ford Galaxy with a moon top on it, bubble top on it. I remember it well.
Can you explain what a shotgun house is? Because maybe
a shotgun house is a long and narrow place. And the thing was that you could stand at the front door and shoot a shotgun through it, and it wouldn't hit anything else. It'd go straight out the back door. That's why they called it a shotgun house.
Only in America.
But long and narrow, had a little front porch, and side porch in the back. She had a black lady that worked for her named Corrine, and I remember Corrine real well. And she was a part of my life, for years and years and years.
Do you think you may have been related to Corrine?
I don't know. Could have been. I could have been. Not much telling. Back in those days, I was kin to a whole lot of folks.
Well, I mean, you found out your lineage because your great grandmother was black.
Yeah, my
Grandma Harrison.
Yeah, she was a good woman too. I would spend pretty much every summer. I would spend with a better part of it with Grandma Harrison in Lepanto.
So mostly women. You were really raised by women.
I was raised by women. Yeah.
A lot of them.
All of them. Yeah. Aunt Dude, Aunt Emmeline, Aunt Bessie. Big Mama, my mama, and Granny Whitlock. So Aunt Ruby and Aunt Myrtis. So I was always surrounded by and raised by women, and I like that. I like that because all of my kinfolk, my male kinfolk, were roustabouts. One grandfather made moonshine, the other one worked on the river and drank it. And I just remember Big Mama would be fretting when people all would be coming home off the river. All she looked forward to was that money, that he'd bring home, and then he'd stay for a week, and then he's gone again. Back out on the river. So I remember all of my kinfolks. All the women that, and being raised by women, I love that whole thing because my life wasn't full of a bunch of macho camacho stuff, I couldn't see, carrying a half pint of Old Crow in my hip pocket. I didn't, even when I was little, that didn't look like it was the right thing to be doing, But they were a bunch of whiskey drinking, gambling, midnight rambling folks, And it was a knowledgeable. I grew up knowing another side of life, than most of the people that lived across the street. Their daddy was a preacher, and he preached at the Church of God down there. And Aunt Christine was twisted up like a pretzel. And it was a Church of God. Everybody would go to church with me. Hey, Christine. They'd walk past the front of the house. And every now and then we'd take her down there. There was one of the, Oral Roberts came one time. He was a healer. He was one of these hands-on, hey, y'all, start speaking in tongues, everybody get out of here, whoa! He needed to heal himself. Anyway, he was having a healing service one Sunday. He was out on the road doing his preaching circuit, and my daddy was on the river with people at that point, and this was before he found the easy money. And anyway, Oral Roberts was down the street having a healing service, and well, we powdered up Christine and rolled her on down there. She was all twisted up like this, and she, you know, she yeah, nah, nah. You know, you want to go to church, Christine? Nah. You know, she was smart with whip. She just couldn't walk or talk, you know.
Right.
I understood her. Big Mama understood her. Mama understood her, but nobody else could understand Aunt Christine. And she had a language. We all spoke in a language of our own, you know, a little private language, the language of love, you know. Well, it was kind of a secret talk that we had. Christine, she was, oh God, she loved me. I could walk in the room, she'd get all excited, she'd start kicking, and you better get out of her way when she started kicking. And oh, she loved little Bobby. She loved me. And anyway, Old Roberts was down at the church, and we come wheeling Christine in. You know, they had about service of about 30 people there, and they were all speaking in tongues and doing their you know. And we come rolling in, and he's up there laying hands on somebody, and we come in there, and he looked up. I could see that look in his face, you know. He wouldn't take Christine. He figured she's too far gone, you know. But that was something. I remember we talked about she's gonna fly one day. She's not worried about walking on this earth because she'll have wings one day and would fly. That's true too. My mother, when Aunt Christine, I was living in Wargrave in England when Aunt Christine passed away, and as well when my grandmother passed away, Big Mama. And my mama didn't tell me about them until they were already buried and everything, because she knew how that would break my heart. You know, I've had a broken heart from missing some of my kinfolk for my whole life. There's always this place there for Aunt Christine, and always a place there for my Big Mama and Granny Whitlock. You know, always, and my mother. My goodness. You know, I can feel her arms around me, you know, I can't.